I know what to do, I just don't do it. I think this is prevalent in every single person's life in some way or another, and I'm coming at it from two different perspectives. My personal perspective of how it's in my life, as well as the perspective of trying to be an effective coach. And that is something that I'm currently working on, how to, effectively connect with someone and lead them to grow and tap into their, natural inclination to grow and just, yeah, really make them feel seen, understand their situation, and help them make better choices for themselves, if they want to. Because that's what I've been trying to do for so long, especially with like nutrition and health coaching, is to help people make better habits and for and I haven't had good success. And so I've been coming at it in wrong ways. And so I've been doing a lot to study and learn about how to be an effective coach. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about is uh kind of makes me think back of the book Atomic Habits that I read. And it's very, you know, all of those things that he touches on with building habits small and then working your way up is so true, but it's so hard to put it in practice and to put it in perspective, because we all have these dialogues in our head that we're telling ourselves, and we don't think that like it's cool to just get up and go for a 10-minute walk or go exercise for just 20 minutes if that's all you have. Like I have just like 40 minutes to record this video, and that's including like the prep and all this stuff. Of course I don't want to make a 40-minute video, but that's everything included. And I didn't want to. I was a little bit hungry. I just want to go back to my dorm and have a snack before I had to get on to the next thing in like an hour. But I was like, this is the time that I dedicated to making this informative video, both for, people to watch, I don't care, but also just for myself, just to become a better speaker and talk about things that I'm learning about. So those are the two perspectives that I'm going off of. So from a coach's perspective, for so long I thought it was just about the habits, everything can be fixed with someone with their health, with their nutrition. It's simply caused by them not eating the right foods. And while that is true, it is practically false. Like you can't just have someone change their habits like that. It's a process where, it's a shifting of their identity. It's a shifting of how they go about their life and their daily actions and about what they value. They may want to be in better shape, but they may not, value the certain things that get you into shape or are willing to make those sacrifices because everything is just a trade off. And also, many of the bad habits that I do kind of shit on, whether it be, smoking, alcohol, things of that sort, everyone has these I'm learning that everyone has these habits for a reason. And as I look on the vices in my life, like we have these habits for a reason because they solve some problem in our life, even if they're not, a good solution. Um, these vices are to de-stress or maybe feel connected in some way that we don't, or to just feel better. And so, it's not as simple as just telling someone to take that away or stop that. You have to kind of replace it with something better. And even if it is replaced with something better, it's the transition that is so hard. Like change is really hard, and that's okay. And that's something that, you have to I have to give to the people that I'm coaching and just understand that with them and have them understand that. Change is hard and that's okay. Like you're gonna be reluctant and resistant to that change. You're going to be angry and frustrated, but that's a hurdle that you have to overcome in order to, you know, go through the habit change. You, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Like you, you have to go through that part of just digesting it, and especially looking at especially what's good about what you already do. That's something that I'm learning is to really look at what's positive and look at your bad habits as something that you can um, take the strengths out of and put them into other areas. So, with those examples of smoking or drinking, like those are vices to de-stress. like there are many other habits where you can de-stress, um, that are a lot better and healthier for you, whether it is taking a walk or reading, journaling, connecting with a friend, and many others, not those just like generic ones. But it's about trying to get that same sort of feeling that you get from those vices. And there's nostalgia around those vices. There's your environment, which provokes uh, different, um, what are they called? How you kind of just, how something clicks up in your environment that makes you do something, a cue, how your environment has different cues. So all of that is hard to overcome, and it's not as simple as telling someone to change. And so by looking at your bad habits as kind of failed solutions is a lot much, it's a way better view, and trying to view the positive out of it. You know, if you're able to drink all the time and smoke all the time and still be relatively lean, like that's that's a pretty good strength, and that's what a lot of my friends do. Um, and it's like that's, of course, it's a bad habit, but that's also like pretty impressive to a degree. And so you can kind of reframe these actions like that and take the good things out of it and put those into better habits. And also, I'm learning, you want to look at, um, how what you're how you're trying to change can be bad. So, if you're super overweight and you're trying to lose weight, you know, why might it be good to stay? Why might it be bad to change? That's a really good question to ask, because and I found myself doing this with myself when I, went through this exercise of talking about writing down how changing could be bad. So, me personally, I'm trying to lose like 10 pounds right now, um, over the next 8 weeks. And something that, and I went through a exercise where I wrote down how changing like that could be bad. And, for me, it was like, I'll have less energy through that 8 weeks. I won't be able to connect with people over food as much, maybe. Um, I won't be able to have that, be able to eat exactly what I want and feel good. I won't, it's going to be hard. I have to go through struggle and go through unfamiliar, like I'll have to break from my routine a little bit. And so by writing down the things that, uh, are bad about change, it's a lot better than just talking about the good. Because when you talk about all the good that could happen, oh, I'll look great, I'll feel great, yada yada, always in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, but like this will happen and I won't have this, I won't have this. But by front loading the opposite and looking at what can be bad about changing, you can really, you bring all of the ghosts into the daylight and you can see them all. And once you can see them, you can understand that they're tangible and that they're just hurdles that can be climbed over. But when you're only talking about the good, you see the gold at the end of the rainbow, but you don't see that the rainbow has a bunch of cracks in it. Like that metaphor. And so if you first see the rainbow and all of its cracks, you can jump over it before running over and like falling. So that's something that's really cool and something that I really want to be aware of and do with my clients and myself, which is pull those ghosts into the daylight and look at, what can be bad about changing, which then makes you more empowered to then go and make those changes if you want. That's another thing. I noticed that, coaching myself is as important as coaching my clients. Everyone has this where, the morals and values or habits you have, you hold other people to, that standard, which, is very true in some ways, but not in others. Like for me, when I coach my clients, um, with health and nutrition, I don't need to profess all of my values, all of my own personal habits and beliefs onto them. They are their own person. They're in charge of their own life. They have their own goals and they have their own environment and how they want to live their life. My goal as their coach is simply to really understand them as a person and what they want and help them slowly inch towards that goal by really empathizing with them. And it sounds so stupid, especially like I hate the word empowerment, but you really are giving them the power and making them feel as though they can really make these small changes. And over time, those changes will really add up and start to change their view of the world and their view of their own life and make them feel and look a lot better. So that's what I need to do, because in the past, like I said, I've just been focusing on the habits, not on the person. And it's really, habit change is a lot more about the person, not simply the habits. The person has all of their thoughts, all of their already ingrained habits and the cues of their environment. And simply telling them to implement these habits is a lot harder. And so you have to really dumb down these habits. A cool quote I like is, which is what I've done in the past for the many past years trying to coach people. It's um, something along the lines of, you can't bully your way to change any more than you can make a plant grow by pulling on it. And I think that's so true, because when I think back about myself, about how I've changed about certain topics, for example, peptides. Recently, peptides have become this big thing in the kind of health world where I am a lot online, and talking about, I read some books on them that they were mentioned in and did a lot more research on them, which, obviously floods my uh, algorithm with even more stuff on peptides. So, I think that it's definitely not mainstream, but it's kind of getting into that um, window of things that people talk about, especially among younger people like my age. And I'm forgetting my point here, but um, oh, how long it took me to change. So I was originally like shown this, and I was like, wow, I don't want to be injecting something into myself subcutaneously through my skin, like that's steroids, or like steroids, and I don't want to be doing any of that. Learned more about what it is over time, continued reading my book, did more research, saw more about it, which of course is due to the algorithms, it isn't entirely organic, but a lot of people that I trust say high things about it, and the studies have been very positive. And so I have changed over time to kind of be more accepting of them, and actually uh, an advocate for them. I have, very much thought of using them, yet I've done a lot of thinking on myself and realized, I'm super young at the peak of my health. Like, all this peptide stuff is kind of getting people back to their baseline of when they were younger. And so I'm kind of already there in a lot of ways. And so for me, especially like considering the price, it's not necessarily worth it, where I can just, become better with my foundational habits. But that took me 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 months to like cross that span. And so when I earlier in my, you know, coaching career was trying to, with the few clients that I had, force everything on them in a few weeks, um, even like a few months, but it was like everything that nothing was going to stick, nothing at all. Way too many habits, way too much information. And that's why I like the new approach I'm going with, where it's like one call every 1 or 2 weeks, and really slowly integrating super small daily practices with them, understanding who they are as a person, understanding their pain points and their values, seeing the world as they see it, and trying to coach them accordingly, and, sympathize, empathize with them, and make them feel empowered to go about this change. Point out what's positive about them and about their bad habits, and, give them the belief that they can change, and provide them a structure that they can definitely 100% consistently do. Make it so easy that you can consistently do it. That's another point I want to hit on. If I'm going to give one of my clients a habit, I want it to be on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of easiness. I want it to be like a 1 or 2. They should easily be able to do that every single day of the week. So if I give them a habit like go on a 10-minute walk after um, every single meal that you eat. Go on that's too hard. Go on a walk for 10 minutes after dinner every night for a week. If you like, that should be, if they say that's more than a 2 in difficulty, then I should reduce it less, make it 5-minute walk, make it, like a 2-minute walk after just dinner every day of the week. Once you can get it down to a 1 or a 2, like that's a good enough habit to give them for the week, one that they can consistently do and they 100% know they can do every single day that week. And then you just build on that. The first week it's 5 minutes, then it's 10 minutes, then it's, after breakfast as well, and then it's after lunch. And over, a couple months, there's able to be a whole lot of change. And not only the change in their, physical actions and habits, but also how I'm coaching them mentally and helping them shift their mindset. That's something that happens gradually over time. And even if I give them all the information right away and they read it in a book or online, it it's not going to change you right away. The mind, like, it has to kind of think about it over and over and reflect on it and be brought up with it again and again until it really starts to understand what it's been learned. Like, you don't just learn something and have it. You have to look back at it, practice it, see it again and again for it to really stick. And so that's why I think um, a slower, more integrative approach is a lot better for health and nutrition coaching. Off in different areas here, so I'm just going to recap, the main topics that I talked about, as well as one last thing. So, um, the title of the video, I know what to do, I just don't do it. A lot of people have that, even myself. I noticed that even as proficient I am with health and nutrition, there are still things that I don't do, that I know I should do. Like, uh, simple stuff, super basic stuff, just going on, a 10 to 30-minute run or whatever, like really dumbing it down, or just 15 minutes of juggling that I do every day. Sometimes I just don't want to do it. Um, like, of course, it's so nice to schedule it in my calendar and think it's gonna be so awesome when I do it, but I get in the moment and it's just like I don't want to do it, which is exactly what happened with this video. Yet I'm still making it right now, and I'm proud that I am making this video right now, and I'll be proud after I'm done as well. Um, and so I'm always proud after I follow through with these things I tell myself, but in the moment I just won't want to put in the effort. And sometimes, most of the time, I'm able to overcome that, but sometimes I don't. But when I do overcome it, it's because I sit there and I think. I really like think about it, and I think, like, I only have the present. So if I don't do it today, like, who's to say I will do it tomorrow? Like, tomorrow's gonna come and it's just gonna feel the exact same, and I'm not gonna want to do it, and then I'm gonna, you know, not do it. And there are many days where I want to do all these things, but there are also many days where I don't, and I have to overcome that and have the discipline to continue on with it. And so it really just comes down to sitting for me and thinking about it for like a couple minutes. And I always just like, there's no way to shimmy around it. It just becomes, like the only way it's going to get done is if you do it. So you can either do it and just, the time's going to pass one way or the other. So you can either do it or you can waste away your time. And so, um, most of the time that gets me over the hurdle, but sometimes it doesn't. Usually it doesn't because I don't actually sit down and think of that. So making sure to sit down and think of that when I do get in those situations is big for me. And so that's a way that I've dealt with. I know what to do. I just don't do it. And also it's about bringing it to your conscious mind, making time for it, which is a video I've talked about recently. And I really have to work on, uh, like, showing this and explaining this to my clients as well. Next, we have, taking big goals. This was a, topic, taking really big goals and really, really done them down into, like, skills, and then practices, and then daily actions, and daily, that will turn into daily habits, hopefully. And so the daily actions, like I just said, practicing soccer for a bit, going for a run, exercising, making this video, those are the things that are actually going to, make you take that next step towards your goal. But if you never take those little steps, you're never going to get there. And it's all made up by these little steps that you do every single day. And so a goal is great, but you have to dumb it down into super simple one to two, like one or two out of 10 difficulty things for both yourself and for the people that I'll be coaching. Also, explaining to yourself and your clients that change is inherently difficult and that's okay. You're going to be resistant to change. You're going to be angry and frustrated. Like, accept that, digest it, and then decide if you really want to keep going. Um, bring the ghosts into the light. Look at how changing might actually be bad. Look at all the things that could be not good about changing. And then when you see all of those, you can then make your decision with what you want to do. What do you value more? What do you prioritize in your own life? What do you want to be your values and be your identity? And again, it's not that easy, but that's definitely a way to start and like how to think of it conceptually. And then again, it's still a daily hassle to actually do the habits every single day. And then the last thing was, look at the negative habits you have and reframe them. Take the strengths that you have out of the negatives and kind of alchemize them into better habits or just a way of um, making yourself feel better and more empowered and therefore more likely to engage in your daily habits or just engage in any sort of planning or anything that gets you closer to your goal. And then the last thing I want to talk about is um, the basics of just the basics. So with health and nutrition in general, I used to always talk about how, the basics of the foundation. And I really think it's different. I think the basics are the entire pyramid. The basics of health and nutrition are what everyone lacks. Even myself, like consistency is the biggest key. If I do not currently do all the basics every single day, if I did all the basics every single day, I would be a lot healthier than I am now. I do many of the basics most of the days, but I don't do all of them every day. And most people barely do any, almost never, right? So the, they don't even have ground to build a foundation upon. Like the entire foundation and the rest of the pyramid is all the basics. The foundation may be, just knowing about the basics. And then above that is, actually practicing them and trying to do them. And above that is being proficient with them. And above that is doing it consistently every single day. Um, and by basics, I just mean like maybe going on a little walk when you wake up, going on walks, 5 to 15 minutes after meals, eating for me, praying before meals and eating slowly and, really tasting the food in my mouth and breathing in between bites. That's something I have to work on. Or just making sure to get enough quality protein in every day or enough, good quality carbs, fats, or vegetables in all of your meals every day. Doing exercise like at least 3 times a week. Um, or preferably six, like 3 resistance, 3 aerobic, having a good nightly ritual, staying connected to people every day or like staying connected with one person at least every day. Like those are the basics and I personally don't do them all the time. I have much to grow in that area. And a lot of other people and especially my clients are way below me. Not to like prop myself up. I'm still saying I have a lot to improve, but people don't even have the foundations at all. Um, and so it just comes down to the basics and the consistency. Like people think that, there's some certain trick or some way of myself included in the past of, getting lean or getting healthy or whatever, or any endeavor you take in life. But It's really just the basics done consistently. And we all hear that yada yada. It's so like trite and um everyone's heard it, but if you can really like rethink about it and look at the basics of what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's a better body, whether it's to become better at a sport, whether it's to earn more money or get a better job or build something at all. If you really just look at the basics, if you're not doing them well and you're not doing them every day, then you have much to improve before you go on to better levels. So with that, those are some so with that, those are some things that I've recently learned and that I need to do with both myself and my clients to um, help them and myself be better with behavior change because it's a lot more about the person and how they feel and think than it is with the actual habits and actions themselves. Thank you for watching.